This morning, we have Dr. Ben Thompson. He specializes in behavioral health, child and adolescent psychiatry from the Pacific Permanente Group. Good morning, Ben.
Hey, good morning, Shane. Thanks for having me on.
Oh, thanks for giving us the call. You know, like I was telling you off air, what a perfect person to answer these questions, as many of our parents, I do know, is very concerned with the welfare of their children. All right, our first question is, how much or little information should parents provide when experiencing an emergency event like the current pandemic or any natural disaster?
Yeah, that's a great question, Shane. So the answer, I think, would be, how about just enough? You know, and the question is, what's just enough?
Yeah.
So parents, they need to be informed so they can share the facts, and then when they share them, need to be remaining calm and reassuring. So getting the information is important. You need to go someplace that's reputable in nature, that you can get the information from, like maybe the news service or websites, like the CDC.
Yes. And
then after you've gathered the information, you need to compact it down to packages that kids can understand, right? So before you start sharing the information, a good thing to do is monitor them. You know, what do the kids already know? Pay attention to what they're seeing on the TV, the radio, or online. You know, sometimes the kids will talk on the phone to their friends about things you might overhear, or just the siblings playing in the house. So then you can ask your kid what they know, answer their questions, and address any possible rumors or misinformation. So that information gathering is really key. But the more important part is when you share it, right? How you give the message. So remaining calm and reassuring is really important. You know, you want to make yourself available. You don't want to be on the phone playing a game or something.
True.
If your kids have concerns, you want to make sure you take the time out to go someplace where you can talk with them quietly. You want to approach the subject matter simply and calmly. Remember, everything you do, and I'm sure every parent knows this, kids take their cues from you. So your child, like my son comes to me and says, "Hey, Dad, we don't have enough food. We don't have enough water." Well, that's a chance for you to validate their feelings. Yeah, hey, I understand this can be scary, son. It's something that a lot of people worried about. But then you reassure them. You say, "Hey, we're taking steps in our family to be healthy, and I want you to know, Jake, we're well prepared."
Ben, I wanted to ask you, would it be wise to have our children, listen to the updates themselves, like when Mayor Mike Victorino does in a press conference?
Yeah, so I think you're referring to kind of how you would address media exposure. Yeah, so there's three things I think to recognize. One is news blackouts. They really work. You can't do that really with kids. You do need to let them know the facts, but you do also need to discourage overexposure. So balance is the key when you're thinking about the news. You don't want to force feed kids the news, but you don't want to go to great lengths to shield them from it either. So again, it's kind of trying to figure out what's the best thing for that kid at that age and according to that kid's personality. So I would go ahead and search the facts, preview the information prior to sharing it. I mean, there's a barrage of information there. And what kids hear on the TV set, or what Mayor Victor Reno says, may be something that they focus on one part, not the whole.
Got it.
So we filter it, since we're the reservoirs they depend upon for peace and comfort, and then we share it with them, and we tailor it again to their personality and their age. And I would just discourage overexposure. Small doses of real life news, they're really helpful. Large doses can have a negative impact on kids, especially some kids that get fixated on a news story and they repeatedly start looking at the news coverage relating to it. So again, if something pops up and the kids hear about it, that's the time for you to sit with them in a quiet place and share with them your thoughts.
That's awesome. I know there's a lot of questions from our parents that are concerned, And, we even overlook the fact that our children has a whole lot of questions for us, especially in this time. And what's another way that that we can involve our children in the family preparedness plan without scaring them, of course?
Yeah, well, that's a great question. I think first thing you got to have is you got to have a plan. Mm-hmm. Even though we're going to involve them, you as the parent or the guardian of their feelings need to put something together, and then step back. Look through a child's eyes. Think about how they're thinking. I mean, what do you think's going on right now, Shane, with our kids at home?
Yeah. They're wondering what's going on, like what's going to happen, what's coming up in the future. When are we going to go back to school?
Right?
Yeah.
And kids are isolated. They're lonely.
Yeah.
And they hear things that maybe they're not ready for. So the first thing to do before you put a plan out there is make sure you have peace in your home.
Good. That's good.
How can you do that? Well, there's lots of different ways. Parents know what brings joy and peace to their home more than any of us do. But remember what it's like to be a kid. Man, I mean, what kind of things really help you to learn? Having fun, right? So, parents, I don't know if you ever had this experience, but when parents do spontaneous things with you, like roasting marshmallows on a barbecue, like my dad took me camping in the living room one time. We also made pillow forts together. When you do those kind of things, that's when kids relax, and that's when kids talk.
Nice.
And at the end of doing an activity like that for the day, that's when you say, hey, guys, tonight, let's have a scavenger hunt. I did this last night with my daughter.
Wow.
You say, okay, we're going to meet in the living room. You bring your school backpacks empty. And then you put a timer on for 10 minutes. You say, okay, you guys, you got 10 minutes. You need to put everything into your backpack you need to live for the next 3 days. And let them go at it.
Wow.
What kind of things do you think they bring back in the backpacks?
Yeah.
Well, my daughter, first thing was a Pikachu.
I can imagine.
The rest of the stuff, I mean, I expected her to grab like about 5 or 6 cans of Vienna sausages, Spam.
Their favorite items only.
Right. So you can imagine the things they bring back. Yeah. Nintendo Switches, you name it, tons of games, but they may not bring back the things they really need, and that's the chance to start talking about family planning.
Mm-hmm. In the planning process, I'm noticing, we're really getting back to, ground level type of things. Like you just said, a scavenger hunt. I mean, a lot of the time our kids are spending on the telephone, on the games and stuff. And, during this time is giving us, the parent, a perfect opportunity to be better parents and for our children to, learn how we've learned, without so much technology being a distraction.
Yeah, absolutely. I think the one thing that's really nice is when you kind of talk about what isn't available to you. Mm-hmm. If you don't have the power, there's no refrigerator. How do you cook your food if there's no microwave or electric oven? And what about fun? What do you do for fun if you can't use a computer? If you can't use games?
That's a good question and a good challenge to our young ones and us as parents too. Because sometimes we use technology as a babysitter too. I mean, I'm just going to admit that.
Oh, absolutely. And even now, when we're so inundated with all these things that are going on, we want to distract ourselves. So even parents, we sometimes spend too much time on social media and other areas instead of doing things together as a family to kind of unify us.
Awesome.
I did want to mention, Shane, that there is a website called ready.gov.
Ready.gov.
Yeah, they have a family emergency planning build-a-kit, and that's kind of where I got this idea from. So you can go on there after you've done this activity, and the kids, they kind of realize, maybe I didn't bring the things I need to live for 3 days. You can go to that website, and you can have a game of building a kit as a family.
Wow, that's awesome. A perfect resource. I was just going to ask you that for many of the parents, what free resources do they have? And that's a perfect one, ready.gov. Got it, my friend. So I know with many of the health experts, you guys been really following CDC website, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Mm-hmm. That is a very important source of information. Hey, super. Ben, we have, I'm sure we'll be having more questions come in where it's children related. And man, thank you for giving us a call. Any last words before we wrap it up this morning?
Yeah, just make sure you share accurate information, make it fun for the kids to learn, and limit the media exposure.
Awesome. And I did hear you say the word peace in our homes. Thank you for that, Ben. We'll talk. Yeah. We'll talk again, Ben Thompson from the Pacific Permanente Group. Thanks, buddy. You have a great day.
You too, Shane. Take
Aloha.
Care. Aloha.